Everyone says Xie Jinyu is unlucky. He saved my life, yet I'm endlessly entangled with him. I fell off my horse unexpectedly and nearly lost my life. He shielded the plum blossom that caused my fall behind him and impatiently said to me, "I will marry you, so stop making things difficult for Wanyun." I scoffed. How many lives can she offer for plotting against the royal family? You still want to pursue the princess. Xie Jinyu angrily left, saying, "Fine. Even if you beg for a royal decree later, I will never marry you." But later, he kneeled before the throne, pleading with my father for a marriage decree. "Lord Xie, please, let the princess return to the palace, or summon the imperial physician to treat her." Xiao Tao knelt and kept bowing, but the handsome young man before her wore a cold expression, frowning in displeasure. "I've already examined her. The princess's injuries are minor. A little delay won't hurt." Lang, it was truly unintentional. I didn't expect that merely approaching on horseback would scare the princess and cause her to fall. Su Wanyun timidly tugged at Xie Jinyu's sleeve, her face full of worry. This incident was an accident. The princess isn't skilled in riding. She won't blame you. When I regained consciousness, the first thing I heard was Xie Jinyu gently comforting Su Wanyun. I instinctively recalled. How did I fall? It was Su Wanyun who said she would teach me riding, but from Xie Jinyu's blind spot, jabbed a hairpin at the horse beneath me. Xie Jinyu was right. My riding skills were poor, and I was barely able to control the horse. When it got spooked, I was thrown off. If I hadn't reacted quickly, I might have had my skull crushed by the hooves. I nearly died. Xiao Tao. Seeing that I was awake, Xiao Tao hurried to my side, her forehead bruised, her face streaked with tears. I gently touched her face, looking down to see bloodstains soaking my skirt, a mottled mess. Even so, Xie Jinyu wouldn't let me return to the palace for treatment. Why was he being so patient, waiting for me to wake up? Xiao Tao helped me sit up. Su Wanyun had already knelt down, tears in her eyes as she begged for my forgiveness. Her voice was soft and trembling, her back straight, looking as if she couldn't bear the humiliation, as if she had suffered a great injustice. I remained silent, reaching down to touch my leg, only to realize I had no feeling below my knee. Xie Jinyu noticed my movement and pressed his lips together. "Your Highness, don't worry. I've been skilled in horsemanship and archery since childhood. I can treat some external injuries. It's just that a bone is slightly out of place, but the skin injuries aren't serious. Your Highness has always been healthy, and with some rest, you'll be fine." This was unexpected. No one could have predicted it. A woman's reputation is important, so I hope Your Highness won't make things difficult for Wanyun. Otherwise, others may catch wind of it and spread false rumors. So that's it. He was worried I'd return to the palace and say something bad about Su Wanyun. Her reputation mattered, but my leg injury was trivial. Because I was healthy and grew up like a wildflower outside the palace, I was different from the delicate flowers that needed care in the capital. I couldn't help but laugh. This life-saving curse was planted on the wrong person after all. Before I was found, I was a wandering beggar. At 6 years old, after I fell into the water and had a high fever that wouldn't break, a man wrapped in black cloth saved me. His face was covered with hideous sores. When he saw me awake, not crying or making a fuss, but instead pulling out a bun I had saved for so long to thank him, he fell silent before bursting into a hoarse laugh. "No wonder I find you little brat pleasing to the eye. It's not a waste for me to keep the curse for so many years." He said I shouldn't have been saved. I was sickly and had a high fever from the fall, my body in such terrible condition that only his life-saving curse could keep me alive. He handed me a box, telling me the curse could only extend my life by 10 years. Unless I could find someone who truly loved me and plant another curse on them. From then on, as long as they lived, I lived. If they died, I died. Remember, it doesn't matter whether it's love between a man and a woman or the love of family. Sincerity is enough. At 13, I was brought back to the palace because I looked very much like the late empress. The one escorting me back to the capital was Xie Jinyu, the second son of the Xie family. When we encountered a landslide, He risked his life to protect me, getting his shoulder crushed. My box containing the curse was also broken, and the curse worm burrowed into his body through the blood. Everyone in the capital knew that Xie Erlang was kind-hearted and saved people, but he was then entangled with that crude and rude princess. It truly was a cursed fate. 4. I asked Xiao Dao where the horse was, but it was Su Wanyun who replied, "That horse caused your highness's injury, so it has been disposed of." She covered her lips with a handkerchief, her brow furrowed in feigned sympathy, but I could clearly see the hidden satisfaction in her eyes. Disposed of? That meant the hairpin marks were gone as well. I nodded. Since the horse is paid with its life, what do you plan to do, Miss Su? Her expression faltered, and she looked at Xie Jinyu with teary eyes. Xie Jinyu's face grew cold as he glanced at me, letting out a deep sigh. Your Highness, upon returning to the palace, you may ask the Emperor to grant our marriage. Wanyun meant no harm. Let this matter end here. Second young master. Su Wanyun suddenly raised her voice, then, realizing, she shook her head and cried, "How can you suffer such humiliation for my sake?" Lord Xie is truly calculating well. I clapped and laughed. There's no rule in our dynasty preventing a prince consort from holding an official position. If the princess were to surrender, her rewards would be plentiful. The crown prince is my full-blooded brother, and the Xie family would then become true royal relatives. Regardless of intention, Miss Su caused me to fall off my horse, which can be seen as an attempt to harm the royal family. Xie Jinyu, what gives you the right to believe that your engagement to the princess can absolve Su Wanyun of her crime? Since our acquaintance, Xie Jinyu had only seen me accommodating and yielding, so my fierce words caught him off guard. What do you intend to do, Your Highness? I'm merciful. Miss Su shall kneel outside for 4 hours as a minor punishment. Xie Jinyu was about to speak again, but Su Wanyun interrupted him. If this can appease the princess, I'll kneel. There's no need to inconvenience second young master with an engagement he doesn't desire. With that, she lifted her skirt and knelt at the door, her long hair cascading down, her pale face truly pitiful. The pain in Xie Jinyu's eyes was nearly overflowing. I remember when I first met you, Your Highness. Even if you had just one bun, you would have shared it with the other orphans. Now you've become so aggressive. I've said before that I regard Wanyun as my sister. You only know jealousy and repeatedly target her. Will you also be so intolerant when she joins the Xie family? Jealousy? I nearly lost my life beneath the horse's hooves, yet he thinks I'm punishing Su Wanyun out of jealousy? Lord Xie is overthinking it. I won't be joining the Xie family, nor will I entangle myself with you any longer. I spoke sincerely, but he thought I was just venting my anger, and left in a huff. Your Highness, if you ever seek a decree in the future, I will not marry you. I watched his retreating figure, feeling a bit dazed. For my life, I had clung to him for 2 years, but my time was running out. With the phoenix on the hairpin, his heart was like iron. Xie Jinyu, I've let you go.
5.
Back in the palace, the imperial physician brought a female doctor to treat my injuries. Because we had delayed, the fabric had stuck to the wounds, and it inevitably tore at my flesh when they cleaned it. Xiao Dao covered her mouth and began to cry again. I smiled and reassured her. Why are you crying? It doesn't hurt. You should go apply the medicine. Foolish girl, what's the point of bowing so sincerely? Xiao Dao sniffled. Your Highness is lying. How could it not hurt? If only the crown prince were here. I shook my head. I truly didn't feel any pain. Another worm had been planted, but the one inside me was not responding and had begun to backfire. Now, below my knees, I had lost all feeling, so of course I didn't feel pain. After the physician left, Father Emperor arrived at my palace. He first asked Xiao Dao what the physician had said. Upon learning I only needed rest, he visibly relaxed. Mingjia, the Su family is filled with loyal and brave people. Now that the old matriarch of the Su family has entered the Buddhist monastery, only one granddaughter remains in the capital. The room fell silent, only the chirping of birds outside disrupting the quiet, stirring unrest in the heart. He paused, then spoke softly. I've sent someone to relieve Su Wanyun of her punishment. Mingjia, I know you've been wronged. I will ensure the physician treats your injuries properly, and you may use any precious medicinal materials. He looked at me, his gaze both authoritative and somewhat oppressive, and perhaps there was a hint of paternal affection in his eyes, but mostly it was the weighing of a ruler's concerns. I understand, and I will follow your orders, Father Emperor. Seeing me obedient, his expression softened further. You're 15 now. Chasing after Xie Jinyu all day is inappropriate. Though Xie Jinyu is good, he's not a suitable match for you. I mulled over this statement in my heart, recognizing the unspoken half-sentence behind my father's words. Xie Jinyu is indeed a good man, but I am not. Though I am a princess, I am uncultured and unrefined, while Xie Jinyu is upright and elegant, like a gentleman. It turns out even Father Emperor thinks I'm not worthy of Xie Jinyu. Previously, I thought it was about personal effort. Now I realize it's fate, predetermined by the heavens. I smiled and said, Father Emperor, don't worry. I won't bother Lord Xie anymore. Father Emperor finally smiled. Since I returned to the palace, it was the first time he showed me a satisfied expression, and before leaving, he bestowed upon me many treasures that reflected the Emperor's favor. 6. That night, I heard rustling sounds in the corridor, and moments later, Xiaotao walked in, holding something. She placed it in front of me, a row of porcelain figurines shaped like adorable kittens, along with a letter. Your Highness, this is from Kangwu. Currently, the flood season was upon us. The Crown Prince had been ordered south to manage the waterworks and had been away from the capital for 3 months. Kangwu is the Crown Prince's personal guard, helping him deliver small items. After touching each of the little cats, I started to read the letter. It had no signature, merely a few sentences that seemed like someone had hastily written them down, as if they weren't meant to be sent. After all, Kangwu had secretly smuggled this out at my request. Today, I saw a woman selling sesame cakes in the street. I heard she moved here from the border, and her skills are quite authentic. Yang once said that sesame cakes were the best things she had ever eaten, but I only found them sour and bitter, which is quite strange. Since Yang loves them, I must ask that woman and learn 1 or 2 skills to make them for Yang when I return to the capital. After reading, I couldn't help but laugh and scold. Brother must have been fooled. Sesame cakes are salty. How could they be both sour and bitter? Xiaotao chuckled as well. It's normal for the Crown Prince, having stayed in the capital for so long, not to discern the difference. Yang is the little name my brother gave me, wishing me peace in this life. I hugged the letter and couldn't resist touching each of the little cats. Brother, please come back soon. 7. I no longer went out of the palace every day to block Xie Jinyu. Instead, I stayed in the hall, playing with the little trinkets the Crown Prince had sent. Occasionally, I'd catch a few snippets from Kangwu, and it would cheer me up for days. But unfortunately, even if I didn't go out, trouble would still find its way to me. Elder Sister Yun is holding a poetry gathering. Let's go together, sister. Princess Minghui waved her hand, and 2 matron attendants squeezed past Xiaotao, forcibly pushing my wheelchair outside. Ever since my mother passed away, the position of the Empress had remained vacant for a long time, and the palace was managed by the consort. Minghui was born of the consort and favored by the Emperor. Therefore, no one dared to speak out against her. Xiaotao, who struggled desperately, was also tied up. Once in the carriage, Minghui pouted and shot me a glare. Are you addicted to pretending to be lame? You won't even get off your wheelchair to get into the carriage. Elder Sister Yun has told me that your injuries are only superficial. Who are you trying to fool? I gripped the armrest tightly, unable to suppress my displeasure. Take me back. Not a chance. Today's poetry gathering is organized with the help of Xie Erling. You should go and see how well-matched they are to help you cut off any lingering feelings. I understood that reasoning with her was pointless, so I could only endure silently. As the carriage arrived at the Su residence, the brocade curtain lifted, revealing Su Wanyun's gentle and beautiful face. After exchanging a few words, Minghui handed me over to her and left with her entourage. It's been a while since I've seen the princess. Su Wanyun pushed my wheelchair, choosing a less traveled path rather than the main road. There's no one here. How long are you going to keep pretending, Your Highness? Don't tell me you're trying to gain Xie Erling's pity this way. My legs are an old injury. It has nothing to do with you, Miss Su. As for Xie Jinyu, I have already told him before that I will no longer entangle myself with him. With no one around, Su Wanyun stopped and looked down at me, her lips curling into an open mockery. Does Your Highness really think I would believe that? A woman like you, unrefined and shameless, with such pathetic methods that make people laugh. I will expose you before everyone, a dignified princess feigning a disability to harm a humble girl. I gazed at her with a complex expression. Unless Xie Jinyu loved me to the extreme at this moment, how could she make me stand up?
8.
Su Wanyun intentionally arranged for me to sit across from her. She aimed to display her closeness with Xie Jinyu, personally serving food to him. Some noticed that the food looked fresh, unlike the pastries from Kyoto, and after a moment of contemplation, it suddenly dawned on them. I've heard that Miss Su and Xie Erling share a bond over a particular pastry. Could this be it? Yes, Xie Erling was so brave as a child. At 8 years old, he once carried a whole nest of sweets and fainted by the roadside, all while muttering about sesame cakes. How pitiful! Thankfully, he was later found by Miss Su, so it seems he had his fill of those cakes, ha. The crowd erupted in good-natured laughter, and Su Wanyun's cheeks turned crimson. If Xie Erling likes them, then I learned to make them. However, I found her words somewhat familiar and couldn't help but glance at Xie Jinyu. He frowned, his face icy, showing no pleasure at the sight of the fragrant sesame cakes, but rather a hint of disgust. As if sensing something, he looked up, our gazes met, and his expression momentarily stiffened before he turned away. I suddenly recalled an incident from years ago. So Xie Jinyu had recognized me long ago. He was destined never to like me. He probably hated me deeply.
9.
Throughout the gathering, Xie Jinyu never touched the plate of sesame cakes, and a hint of grievance showed on Su Wanyun's face. Song Wenshu, the daughter of the Grand Tutor, suddenly laughed out loud. Some people always love to do things that please no one. If Xie Jinyu won't eat, why don't you bring it to the princess? She's the one who got her leg hurt because of you, yet you only know how to flirt with a blind man. Can't even play the cook right, and you're showing affection in the wrong place. With one remark, she scolded 3 people. Song Wenshu liked Xie Jinyu, but unlike other girls, she couldn't stand all the women who admired him or Xie Jinyu himself. She loved his handsome face while also scorned his flirty nature, thinking he was unworthy of respect. In short, she was a strange girl who would attack anyone. I opened my mouth, unsure whether to explain that my leg truly had nothing to do with Su Wanyun or to clarify that I wasn't actually lame. After all, a lame person could still stand up. Meanwhile, Su Wanyun had already started to cry. The accident that day was indeed unexpected. Wanyun was also punished. Why does the princess have to let Wanyun suffer this injustice? Xie Jinyu also turned to me, disappointment filling his eyes. To frame Wanyun and deceive the world, such disgraceful behavior. I hope the princess will stop at once. He didn't even ask me a single question, just assumed I was pretending to be sick. In front of everyone, he rebuked me for my lack of virtue. I touched my heart. The insect lying dormant there had already grown weak, perhaps unable to last the last year. But I felt a sense of relief in my heart. To rely on someone else's love or hate for one's life was already a gamble, and what's more, Xie Jinyu had never believed in me. I recalled the first time I met Su Wanyun, her charming smile, her intimate gesture as she held my arm. When we reached the lakeside, her expression suddenly changed, and she exclaimed that there was an insect on her back. As my hand barely touched her back, she screamed and fell straight into the lake. Soaking wet, she landed in Xie Jinyu's arms, and with just one sentence, "Why did you push me, Your Highness?" He believed her completely. No matter how I tried to defend myself, Xie Jinyu wouldn't trust me. He only trusted Su Wanyun because she was his childhood friend, the girl he had liked for many years. I had lost from the very start. I was grateful that I had stopped my losses in time, but I couldn't help but feel resentful. When I woke up from my serious injury, I had asked him if he had someone he liked. Xie Jinyu, why did you tell me no? Why did you make me waste these 2 years in vain?
10.
I felt overwhelmed with fatigue, no longer wishing to say more, and prepared to leave. Suddenly, a shadow fell beside me, and I heard the sound of water pouring, followed by a searing pain that felt as if it was burning me. I couldn't help but cry out in pain, but because my lower leg couldn't move, I was forced to stay in place, letting the boiling water pour all over my legs. Gasps of surprise filled the air, and Xie Jinyu's expression changed as he stepped forward and kicked away the maid. I was in so much pain, I nearly fainted, but through the crowd, I caught a glimpse of Su Wanyun. Her face wore a look of genuine confusion. In that fleeting moment, I understood this was her plan. She thought I would stand up due to the pain, thus confirming that I was pretending to be ill. Xie Jinyu's hands shook as he held me, his face full of anguish. Why didn't you dodge? Isn't your leg fine? Your Highness, what's wrong? It's all that maid's fault. Once Su Wanyun realized what happened, she quickly put on a worried expression, attempting to wipe me down with her handkerchief, but her efforts barely touched my skin. Her dress soaked up the water, emitting steam. I grabbed her wrist, forcefully pressing her hand onto my leg.
Ah.
Let go. Let go. She struggled desperately, tears streaming down her face, ruining her makeup. I was also in pain. The burning sensation on my thigh felt like it was tearing me apart. But seeing Su Wanyun's tear-streaked face made me unable to suppress a laugh. Mingjia, let go. Xie Jinyu realized what was happening and began to tug at my wrist. But I was determined to let Su Wanyun suffer, and as he struggled to pull me away, he pushed me hard instead. Snap. Accompanied by the sound of fabric tearing, I fell to the ground. Arlong, my hand hurts so much. Su Wanyun clutched her hand, gasping for breath, her palms bright red, already forming blisters. Xie Jinyu, caught by her grip on his sleeve, dared not move for fear of worsening her injuries. He comforted her while looking at me in a panic. When he saw me, his face turned pale. 11. I followed his gaze downward and saw my torn sleeve and the scarred, ugly arm. My hand was swollen and paired with these arms that looked sickening. Many young ladies couldn't help but gag. Meanwhile, Su Wanyun's sleeve fell away, revealing her frost-like white wrist, making her red, swollen hand seem even more pitiful. Seeing the renowned Xie Erlang, who usually seemed so unfazed, tear up made everyone's hearts ache. I lacked the strength to push myself up, so I closed my eyes and lay silently on the ground. I had long learned to endure pain. Crying and moaning would only invite malicious glances from others and bring unwanted scrutiny. I repeated a mantra I had whispered countless times before. I won't die. I will survive, waiting for my brother to come and take me away. A light robe fell upon me, airy and carrying a faint, pleasant fragrance. I was lifted and securely placed against someone's chest. Opening my eyes, after a moment of dazed surprise, I felt overwhelming joy and leaped to wrap my arms around his neck. Brother, you're back.
12.
The Crown Prince returned to the capital months later, finally coming back in the season of blooming hibiscus. As soon as he arrived, his personal guards surrounded the Su mansion. The armored guards looked formidable, and a cold glimmer reflected off their metal, leaving the onlookers silent as mice. In the ensuing silence, the Crown Prince walked out carefully, pushing the arm of the person he was carrying back into his embrace. The warm sunlight illuminated his face, casting a jade-like glow on his features, while his voice was cold and cutting. The maid will be punished by death. Su Wanyun's words and actions are unacceptable. She shall be slapped 30 times and kneel in the courtyard for 4 hours. For offending the princess, Xie Jinyu shall be beaten 50 times and will have his salary withheld for a year. The Crown Prince's gaze fell on the palace servants beside him, and he paused for a moment. All the servants around Ming Hui shall also be punished by death. Crown Prince. Ming Hui, who had been watching the spectacle, rushed over, her skirts flaring. What have they done wrong? They were given to me, by mother. Her voice grew softer as she met the Crown Prince's calm, deep-set eyes, halting a few steps away. Ming Hui, they're being punished on your behalf. Being punished on behalf of someone. Ming Hui's eyes widened in shock, and for a brief moment, she felt that the Crown Prince truly wanted to kill her, unable to suppress a slight tremor. I was lifted onto the carriage. The sound fell silent, and I hid beneath the robe, bumping my forehead against the Crown Prince's chest, my joy causing me to forget the pain in my body. Brother, I missed you so much. The Crown Prince remained silent, cautiously wrapping his arms around me. He was always like this, preferring to listen quietly when I spoke rather than engage much. But suddenly, I found it unbearable, and I pushed against his chest with more force. Brother, don't blame yourself. If you don't speak to me now, when I'm gone, you won't be able to say anything at all. After being nudged several times, the Crown Prince helplessly reached out and awkwardly patted my hair. Ming Jia, be good. Doesn't it hurt? I wanted to say it didn't hurt, but for some reason, my body suddenly erupted in intense pain, as if every scar I had was waking up. My eyes turned into fountains, tears streaming down my cheeks as I hugged his waist, crying out in agony, seeing him at a loss as he tried to console me. It felt like many years ago when I had waited so long in the haystack but never got to see my mother or brother. After fainting from hunger once, I had gone out to scavenge for discarded food. But when I returned to the haystack, 2 wild dogs followed me, eyeing the bun in my hand. When the wild dogs pounced on me, I cried out "mother" and "brother" in a hopeless hope, feeling like a rag doll torn apart. At that time, it really hurt. 13. Back in the palace, the imperial doctor and female physician were already waiting outside the hall. Xiao Tao had also been released. She had cried for so long that her eyes were swollen like walnuts. Worried that she would cry even more upon seeing my injuries, I sent her away to the outer room. But just a moment later, I regretted it. From behind a screen, Xiao Tao was sobbing as she spoke to the Crown Prince. She still remembered to protect my reputation, briefly mentioning my entanglement with Xie Jinyu, focusing instead on how that Xie Erlang was ungrateful and unwilling to yield, and how Su Wanyun was eloquent, twisting the truth. During the years I've served the princess, I've read quite a few books. The girls wronged in those stories aren't as tragic as you, Your Highness. The female physician applying medicine to me looked increasingly sympathetic, her movements becoming gentler. My legs had been severely scalded, and the Crown Prince brought over an invaluable ointment. I checked your pulse report. Your previous injuries shouldn't have made you unable to walk. Through the screen, the Crown Prince's usually clear voice was slightly hoarse. Ming Jia, are you hiding something from me? I was momentarily stunned. Many thoughts flashed through my mind, but the last image that lingered was of the Crown Prince when I returned to the palace. He was slender, pale, like a jade figure left in the mortal world. Upon seeing me, his dead black eyes lit up slightly. I pulled the blanket over my face and whispered, "There are so many illnesses in the world. Perhaps the imperial medical skills are lacking, and they didn't find the problem." The Crown Prince didn't respond. What I didn't know was that after this day, the Eastern Palace offered a reward of 10,000 gold to seek out the best physicians in the realm. 14. The only heir of General Su and the second son of the Xie Marquis were both punished, and even Ming Hui received a slap on the hand, along with those who were caned to death. The executioners were the Crown Prince's personal guards, and everyone present was forced to stay to witness the punishment. Such tyranny drew murmurs of discontent in the court, and memorials criticizing the Crown Prince piled high on the emperor's desk. Even though the Crown Prince had achieved success by leading the southern efforts to control floods, the emperor was infuriated. He picked up a memorial from his desk and hurled it at him. "Where did your former composure go? To act so recklessly is truly disappointing. I did not take their lives. That alone is restraint." The Crown Prince replied, blood trickling down his forehead, yet his expression remained calm. The atmosphere was heavy. The emperor fixed his gaze on him for a moment, then laughed in fury. "Good. You're getting ideas, yelling for the execution of loyal subjects' descendants. If you don't want to sit on the throne, there are plenty who would. Though the emperor said this, he couldn't bear to completely abandon this son born to his first wife, whom he had high hopes for since childhood, especially since his other sons were mostly unworthy. Thus, he decided to adhere to the principle of out of sight, out of mind, sending him to Huangjue Temple, ordering the crown prince to reflect on his actions and think deeply about his faults as a way to appease the court officials. I will be away for a few days. Stay in the palace and take care of your injuries. The crown prince picked up a large character written on the table, frowning slightly. Before he could say anything, I quickly snatched it from him, crumpling the unsightly handwriting into a ball and tugging at his sleeve. Brother, I want to go too. I buried my face in the cool, soft satin, rubbing it. I'll miss you, brother. Don't you miss me? 15. The crown prince went to Huangjue Temple as a punishment, and every day he had to copy scriptures and pray for blessings in the hall. As a bystander, I sat in the meditation room making grass crafts. I made grass bunnies, grass dragonflies, grass butterflies, all sorts of things laid out on the table. Every morning, the crown prince would go to the kitchen to knead the dough himself and make sesame cakes. I had prepared myself for a piece of sour, tough cake and had even rehearsed how to control my expressions and praise my brother's cooking countless times. But when I bit into the cake, it was incredibly crisp and salty, tempting. The crown prince smiled at me, the wound on his forehead resembling a slight flaw in white jade. How is it? I nodded repeatedly. Delicious. Authentic. I placed the newly made grass grasshopper in his palm as a return gift. He patted my head, his touch transitioning from awkwardness to familiarity. I was enjoying this carefree life immensely. Occasionally, I would hear visitors coming to pray share news from the capital. Su Wanyun's hand had been scarred, and she had been slapped in front of everyone, feeling embarrassed. She hadn't shown her face outside for a long time. Once Xie Jinyu had healed, he often searched for scar-removing ointment, frequently visiting the Su residence. They remained the praised golden couple, a perfect match. Xiao Tao brought over the medicine bowl, and I drank it all in one go.
She was surprised.
Your Highness doesn't fear bitterness now. I didn't even use the sweet dates I prepared. I picked up a sweet date and tossed it into my mouth. It tasted as bland as the bitter herbal soup. I had lost my sense of taste.
16.
To my surprise, Xie Jinyu came to the mountain to see me. As he entered, his gaze fell first on a bunch of grass beside me, and his brows furrowed slightly. I knew what he was thinking. Noble girls in the capital excel in embroidery, music, chess, calligraphy, and painting, while I could only weave grass from the countryside. Once, I spent several days and nights using my finest skills to make a grass rabbit, picking the reddest and roundest rubies from my jewelry box for its eyes, and presented it to him as a gift. He said he liked it very much. But later, I saw that same grass rabbit under Su Wanyun's foot, crushed to an unrecognizable state from being trampled on. She was playing with the 2 rubies, saying, "Second young master said that even with precious gems, it still has a rustic smell, which is quite unsightly to put in the study, so he asked me to deal with it. I thought since it's wild grass, it should return to the mud where it belongs. You don't mind, do you?" I ignored her insinuation and never sent Xie Jinyu another grass weaving again. Fearing he might think I intended to annoy him with such things, I hurriedly explained, "This is a gift for my brother." He was momentarily stunned and quickly replied, "I didn't mean." "Xie Darren," I interrupted. "If there's something to say, just say it. I haven't seen the princess for a long time. How is your leg?" Xie Jinyu pressed his lips together, looking somewhat awkward. "Mingjia, it's not that I didn't want to see you sooner. It's just that you injured Wanyun's hand that day. She has valued her hands highly since she was young, and now she has a scar. She's been crying every day, and I really couldn't leave." "If you couldn't leave, why come at all?" He said, "I heard that the crown prince sent all the scar removal ointment from the private treasury to the princess. So he was here to ask for ointment." I laughed. My brother's ointment was indeed effective, and my legs were perfectly fine now, but I had completely lost sensation in them. This wasn't Su Wanyun's fault. But why should I give it to her? How could I repay kindness with malice? I'm not lending it. I'm not giving it. Seeing that I was resolute, he grew a little angry. Wanyun's hand was injured because of you, Mingjia. How can you be so cruel? She had her maid pour boiling water on me. She deserves this. I paused my actions and looked at him in confusion. Is there really such a logic in the world? The victim doesn't help the culprit, so that's considered malicious? Xie Jinyu, you have read the classics. How can you be so unreasonable? Xie Jinyu was silent for a moment and said, that maid was careless. Wanyun has a pure heart. She felt close to the princess when she first saw you. It couldn't have been her. See, he still believed in Su Wanyun. I touched my heart. The bug inside me was no longer restless as it had been when I first saw Xie Jinyu. The same kind of bug cannot be apart for too long. After a month away from the capital, the bug in Xie Jinyu's body had already died. One day, I too would quietly pass away like that bug. 17. Some things need to be made clear, otherwise there will always be people playing dumb, thinking there is still some affection between us. Xie Jinyu, you've recognized me long ago, haven't you? You also remember that time at the border when we escaped from the traffickers after enduring great hardships, and I snatched away the sesame cakes from your arms, causing you to faint from hunger by the roadside. I didn't quite understand before. It wasn't until I spent 2 years in the capital that I grasped that for noble youths like you, that memory must be extremely humiliating and unbearable. That's why you've always thought I was malicious, thinking I was despicable. No matter what I said, you wouldn't believe me, because in your heart, I've always been that detestable little beggar from back then. As winter approached, the weather grew increasingly cold. Xie Jinyu's face turned as pale as frost, his lips quivered for a moment, but in the end, he turned away awkwardly, his voice barely above a whisper. No, it's not like that. He was still quibbling, so I said, as a low-ranking official of the Dali Temple, can you really not see through Su Wanyun's tricks? Indeed, the sharp-eyed and discerning Xie Shaoqing couldn't see through Su Wanyun's endless lies or her feigned weakness. But people's hearts are naturally biased. So he feigned ignorance, using me as a stepping stone to fulfill his childhood dreams. Enough! His hand, hanging at his side, clenched into a fist, the veins bulging as if he was trying hard to suppress something. Wanyun is my little sister whom I have watched grow up. Her father and brothers all died on the battlefield, and the old lady, Su, has withdrawn from the world. She is struggling alone, so I naturally need to take care of her. Moreover, the princess will not die. Why do you keep fixating on her? Do you dare say you didn't fake your leg injury, that you didn't intentionally pour that boiling water on Wanyun to punish her? Intentionally pouring boiling water just to frame Su Wanyun? What kind of foolishness could I commit to do such a thing? Everyone will die, Xie Jinyu. You think too highly of me. I sneered, pointing at the door. Get out. Xie Jinyu closed his eyes, his voice taut. The princess will eventually understand my intentions. By then, I would still be willing to marry the princess. With that, he turned and left. 18. I ignored his crazy words and continued to weave my little rabbit, thinking my brother had been in Huangjue Temple for over a month now. I may be foolish, but I know that if a crown prince stays away from the court for too long, it's inevitable that people's hearts will waver. How annoying! Xie Jinyu was annoying, and Su Wanyun was annoying too. They actually caused my brother to be punished. I looked at the lifelike little rabbit and asked Xiao Dao to invite someone for me. At night, the crown prince came over with a cold expression. He didn't say a word, rolling up his sleeves to massage the acupuncture points on my legs, a technique taught by the royal physicians. Though there was no effect, the crown prince persisted day after day. He lowered his gaze, his appearance bright and clear. Watching the beauty under the lamp, he grew more and more enchanting. That's how I see my brother. After a while, I couldn't help but ask eagerly, when will my brother get married? When will he have children? If he marries this month, could we see a little baby next year? The crown prince paused his movements, his gaze slightly cold. I've yet to find someone to be fond of, unlike Mingjia, who feels too much for someone beneath her. Was he scolding Xie Jinyu instead of me? I gave a sheepish smile. I'm just afraid that if I don't practice my skills, I will be looked down upon by the children. The crown prince frowned. Do they dare look down on you? I imagine the cool and upright brother lecturing a drooling baby, forbidding them from disdaining the ugly things their aunt made, and couldn't help but laugh. The crown prince quietly watched me and finally asked, Mingjia, do you really like Xie? I pondered the intent behind his question. He implied that if I truly liked him and the stakes were high enough, it wouldn't be difficult for Xie Ho to abandon one son. Did that mean he was considering taking Xie Jinyu away for me to keep as a forbidden plaything? If that really happened, Xie Jinyu would be so embarrassed and angry. I replied seriously. Meeting Xie was unexpected, but he is handsome and youthful, and it's hard not to have some fondness for him. But my fondness for my brother is tenfold, while my fondness for Xie is only fivefold. This liking is too shallow, and mixed with too many other feelings. He has been entangled by me for so long, and I'm sure it has given him quite a headache. It's best for us to avoid each other in the future. The crown prince replied with a soft I couldn't tell if he was happy or unhappy. This is a common trait of those in power. They do not show their emotions. If they do show them, they are definitely pretending, likely holding back a scheme to set someone up. 19. Kangwoo felt that the prince was overly cheerful today. While he was reporting on the movements of officials in the court, the prince had already started writing in his journal. Occasionally, he would glance at the grass rabbit placed next to the seal. Kangwoo was saying that a minor official had secretly sent a concubine to the Minister of Personnel when the prince suddenly spoke up. Kangwoo, did you hear what Mingjia said? Kangwoo was slightly taken aback and recalled, I heard the princess say she doesn't like Lord Xie anymore. The prince glanced at him and pressed his lips together. That's not the sentence. Kangwoo racked his brain to remember. The princess hadn't said much. If it wasn't that, then what was it? Kangwoo cautiously ventured. The princess is concerned about when you will marry and have children? The prince's expression darkened. Mingjia said, she has 10 parts of love for her brother, he said slowly, a hint of pride on his face, while Xie is barely half of that, Kangwoo suddenly understood. Mingjia is intelligent and kind, and she's also beautiful and charming. She is the best woman in the world. The prince smiled slightly, then seemed troubled. But Mingjia is only 15. I don't want her to marry too early. At least she should stay by my side until she's 18. As for Mingjia's future husband, the prince grew more agitated as he spoke, standing up and pacing the room. I need to choose a good husband for Mingjia. No matter how many there are, as long as Mingjia likes them, I'll just have to keep several in the residence. Mingjia likes Xie's looks. It's clear she prefers handsome men. That's very good. Many men in the world are unfeeling and shallow. Besides, since Mingjia has 10 parts of love for her brother, it's a huge fortune for anyone else to get even a little bit of her affection. I am the prince, and others shouldn't go past me. Mingjia's dowry should also be prepared early. I need to hire the best craftsmen to make the largest, finest, and most beautiful bridal bed. The prince went on, eager to arrange Mingjia's life perfectly, fearing she might have even the slightest dissatisfaction. Kangwoo was lost in thought when the prince suddenly called on him. Raising a sister is quite a troublesome matter, Kangwoo. Wouldn't you agree? Kangwoo wanted to say he was an orphan and had never raised a sister, but the prince clearly had no intention of waiting for him to answer and continued on his own. Pity the hearts of parents everywhere. Being an older brother is not easy either. I want to find her the best husband in the world, yet I feel that no matter how good he is, he won't be worthy of Mingjia. The prince was truly too happy today. So, should he still read this information? The Eastern Palace had mentioned finding a strangely disguised divine physician.
20.
When the first snow fell in the capital, the emperor issued an order, summoning the prince back to the capital. The carriage rolled over the fresh snow, leaving 2 long tracks. Passing through the bustling market, shouts rang out beyond the brocade curtains. Did you hear? The Vice Minister of Justice, Xie was stabbed in the street. The blade was very long and sharp, piercing straight into Xie's heart, but he didn't bleed much. Strange. To stab a government official in the street. Who could it be? His whole family will be ruined. Xiaodao could barely hide her smile, unable to resist lifting a corner of the brocade curtain. Hey, guess what? That person is fine. Someone from the Eastern Palace came and took him away. Do you think it's because of the matter between Xie, the princess, and the Su family? With two women competing for one man, conflicts are inevitable. Is the prince standing up for his sister? Poor Su family's wife, her father and brothers have all died for the country, leaving only her a weak woman. The princess likes the man, and she still wants to compete. How truly lamentable. So pitiful. Xiao Tao's face darkened, and she angrily dropped the curtain. I couldn't help but glance at the prince beside me. My brother dotes on me so much. Could it really be?
Why?
Do you think I hired someone to kill him? The prince flipped a page of his book, his expression calm. Kanwu is already investigating the Marquis's residence. Afterward, whether Xie Jinyu is executed or exiled from the capital, I plan to ask your opinion. I stared at him, stunned. The prince's gaze lingered on my legs, his long lashes casting shadows. Mingjia, should I let him die to atone for his sins? Should I? I silently hugged the hand warmer, warmth slowly seeping into my palms. Execution or exile, the brother was asking me how much I hated Xie Jinyu. But I didn't hate him. He saved me but unexpectedly ended up cursed with the same life worm. His not loving me wasn't his fault. But I wanted to live, flattering him, currying favor and repeatedly yielding, only hoping he would bestow a little genuine affection. I also wasn't in the wrong. I hated him because he saw through my repeated concessions and allowed Su Wanyun to bully me time and again. Seeing my silence, the prince didn't ask further. Midway, Kangwu arrived on horseback, looking anxious, and the prince descended the carriage first. Upon returning to the palace, a row of guards stood in the courtyard. The emperor's close attendants stood respectfully with their heads bowed, saying eagerly, "These are men sent from the imperial guards. Each of them is exceptionally skilled and will be the princess's personal guards from now on." I frowned. In our dynasty, only princes are qualified to have personal guards. How could father issue such an order? A month ago, His Highness the Prince requested an edict, saying that since the princess's movements are inconvenient, it's better for her to have personal guards around her for safety. The attendant wiped the sweat from his forehead, smiling even more obsequiously. Equipping the princess with personal guards was unprecedented, but the prince was firm, saying that if Mingjia suffered another injury, he would kill everyone responsible for harming the princess. The emperor, enraged, threw down the memorial, remained silent for a long time, and eventually agreed. After all, this is the inner palace, and these guards will temporarily stay with the imperial guards. They can accompany the princess when she goes out. Until I returned to my room, Xiaodao was still smiling. The prince is truly good to you. With personal guards, who would dare bully you? Minghui won't dare to forcibly take the princess away like last time. I couldn't help but smile either. Picking up my brush to write, my hand slipped uncontrollably, and my already ugly handwriting became even more unsightly. Xiaotao looked puzzled. "Are you tired, Your Highness?" I put down the brush and smiled gently. "Perhaps." "Xiaodao, have the people I asked you to invite arrived?" "Rest assured, Your Highness. They are on their way to the capital." 21. After a few snowfalls, the weather became increasingly cold. I was watching the palace servants knocking off the icicles from the eaves when Xiao Tao hurried in from outside and said softly, "Your Highness, Madame Su has gone to the hot spring resort with Lord Xie." I tapped the armrest of my wheelchair. "Then we should be on our way." When Su Wanyun returned to the residence, I was sipping tea and admiring the paintings hanging in the hall. The paintings depicted three strikingly similar men in armor, each holding a long spear. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, causing the curtains to flutter slightly and revealing the figure of someone inside. Su Wanyun stormed in, but was stopped at the door by my guards. Your Highness is now more imposing than I am as the host, she said. After waving my hand to let her in, I smiled innocently. Isn't Madame Su at the hot springs? There are some who are disrespectful and intrude upon my door. I, as the host, cannot fail to attend to my guests, she replied. With Lord Xie still at the hot spring resort, Su Wanyun no longer pretended to be gentle and kind, her face showing impatience as she tried to send me off. I pointed at the painting. This palace admires General Su's demeanor and has come specifically to pay a visit. It wouldn't be appropriate for you to rush your guest away, would it? Your Highness and I have already torn our masks apart, Su Wanyun scoffed. This pretense is truly disgusting. I chose not to respond to her insult and shifted my gaze downward. How is Madame Su's hand? The pale white of her hand still bore red marks. She curled her fingers and hid them in her sleeves. It seems it's not healing well. Tell me, if I were to pour a pot of boiling water on you today, who would come to your rescue? My guards, composed of the palace's elite troops, represented the emperor's authority, and no one dared to approach. Su Wanyun turned to look. All she could see were my guards in their formidable iron armor, the cold glint in their eyes causing her pain. I feigned a shout for help, and she couldn't help but retreat a few steps, her voice shaking with fury. My father and brothers sacrificed their lives for the country. How dare you? I studied her for a long time, suddenly finding her dull and uninteresting. Why does Madame Su fear so much, yet still resort to such despicable means? Your father and brothers were valiant men, yet you bring shame upon the Su family. Not knowing which of my words struck her, Su Wanyun's expression turned cold, revealing a hint of mockery. Isn't this your fault? You shouldn't be competing with me for Lord Xie. You and Xie Jinyu have mutual affections. You can naturally establish a marriage contract. What wrong have I done to be repeatedly schemed against by you, nearly losing my life several times? Mutual affections, Su Wanyun murmured to herself several times, then raised her gaze toward the painting, her lips curling into a half-smile. Your Highness has heard of my father and brother's fame, haven't you? They held military power and guarded the borders, and for decades, no barbarian dared to invade. Their contributions cannot be overstated. As she reminisced, Su Wanyun's eyes sparkled. She spoke of how she had once been the most renowned lady in the capital, sought after by numerous families, until her father and brothers died in battle, leaving only an old matriarch and 7-year-old Su Wanyun in the Su household. At this point, her expression turned icy, but tears began to flow from her eyes, continuously streaming down. My grandmother went to a Buddhist temple to pray, and in one night, the Su residence became desolate. She even intended to betroth me to a low-ranking official. Your Highness, if I had wanted to become the crown princess, I could have. Now I can only marry some lowly official. How can I accept this? I pursed my lips, unable to help interjecting. My brother wouldn't marry you. Su Wanyun laughed coldly. Who would really want him? The crown prince is cold and detached. He is not a good choice. What I want is Xie Jinyu. We grew up together. He treats me like a sister and cares for me deeply. After my brothers passed away, the young ladies in the capital continued to associate with me only because of Xie Jinyu's reputation. If I marry a lowly official, how many would laugh behind my back? If you had not appeared, Xie Jinyu would have certainly married me. He said that if he didn't meet a woman he liked in this life, he would marry me. I would become Lady Xie, and who would dare to mock me? But he brought you back. Su Wanyun's eyes were filled with hatred. Do you know what he said to me when he returned? He said that your Highness likes him, but you are too young for him to commit too soon. Huh. I have known him for more than a decade. No one understands the pride and self-importance behind his gentlemanly facade better than I do. I merely had a few familiar ladies mention your rough manners and lack of etiquette in front of him, and he couldn't help but distance himself from you, believing my lies that he should train you to be a proper noblewoman. Su Wanyun stepped closer to me, leaning in to stare at me. Look, he is just that kind of person. How much does he truly love you? It can never surpass his pride and vanity. Your Highness do not want him anymore. What is so good about a person like him, aside from power and status? You are a royal princess. Your brother is the crown prince. What you lack the least is power and status. Please let go of Lord Xie and give him to me, all right? That is not your reason for harming me. She had said so much, yet always fell short of the crucial point. I looked up at her and raised my voice. Although I once clung to Xie Jinyu, I have never obstructed you two. Yet you have attempted to take my life several times. He promised to marry me. If you die, he will marry me. I will kill you, because you deserve to die. Enough. The cane struck the ground heavily, and the curtain was pulled back to reveal an elderly woman with a disappointed expression. Xiao Tao rolled up the curtain and stood beside me. Upon seeing the old lady, Su Wanyun's eyes flashed with a hint of panic, yet she forced herself to remain calm. Just as she was about to call for help, she was held down to the ground by two older women. Impudent. Who allows you to speak to the princess this way? 22. Grandmother, how did you get here? Su Wanyun knelt on the ground, her face pale. Old lady Su glanced at her, sighed deeply, and said, Your Highness wishes to hear about the Su family. I must return to the capital. Otherwise, I would not have known my granddaughter has become so bold as to lay hands on the princess multiple times. Remembering what she had just said, Su Wanyun panicked, but as she tried to plead for leniency, a nearby old woman covered her mouth. Old lady Su shook her head in disappointment, trembling as she prepared to kneel and plead for forgiveness. I looked at Xiao Tao, who quickly stepped forward to support her. It is my fault. I have only cared for my own peace over these years and forgotten about my granddaughter, which led her to stray and commit so many crimes, bringing shame to the Su family. Regardless of how your highness wishes to punish her, I bear no complaints. Old lady Su bowed her head and, disregarding others' attempts to stop her, knelt down, her hairpins visible, now white and devoid of luster. She pleaded, But I hope your highness will be lenient and spare my foolish granddaughter's life, allowing the Su family to retain some bloodline. I silently observed the chaos in the room, raising my eyes to the resolute face of the man in the painting, whose loyalty was as steadfast as the sun and moon. Su Wanyun was right. The Su family was well known and respected. Even when I was a beggar, I had once dreamed of having a general who would protect the Great Way, and I had seen the Su brothers, clad in light armor, riding horses at the border. Covering the dead in horse blankets, the heroic tales of those who died would always resonate in the fragrance of sweat-soaked bamboo. The Su family is loyal and brave. The emperor has always treated the Su family generously, and I have great admiration for them, I said calmly. I heard that the Su family's ancestral home is in Huayan, a place with beautiful mountains and clear waters, perfect for living out one's twilight years. Old lady Su looked at the painting, her eyes glistening with tears, and nodded gently. Indeed, I have spent most of my life away from home, and I cannot suppress my longing for my hometown. I will choose a day to take my granddaughter back home. 23. After several snowfalls, the weather grew increasingly cold. I was watching the palace maids hammering the icicles hanging from the eaves when Xiao Tao rushed in from outside and whispered, Your Highness, Lady Su has gone to the hot springs villa with Lord Xie. I tapped the armrest of my wheelchair. Then we should get going too. When Su Wanyun returned to the manor, I was sipping tea, admiring the portraits hanging in the hall. The portraits depicted three men, each with a distinct charm yet similar appearances, all dressed in armor and holding long spears. Suddenly, a gust of wind blew, causing the curtains to flutter, faintly revealing the shadow of a person inside. Su Wanyun stormed in, but her bodyguard stopped her at the door. Your Highness seems to be more imposing now than I, the master of this house. After waving for them to let her in, I smiled innocently. Isn't Lady Su at the hot springs? There are those who don't know how to show respect and force their way in. As the master, I can't just ignore guests, she snapped. Lord Xie was still at the hot springs villa, and Su Wanyun didn't bother pretending to be gentle anymore. She looked impatient, wanting to send her guests away. I pointed to the portraits. I admired General Su's elegance. It wouldn't be appropriate for you to rush your guests out like this, would it? You and I have already torn our masks off, Su Wanyun scoffed. This kind of feigned friendliness is disgusting. I remained non-committal and shifted my gaze. How's Lady Sue's hand? The pale skin of her hand bore red marks, and she quickly withdrew her fingers, hiding them in her sleeve. It seems it's not doing well. Tell me, if I were to throw boiling water on you today, who would come to your rescue? Her bodyguards came from the Imperial Guard and represented the Emperor's authority, so no one dared approach. Su Wanyun glanced back at the soldiers, all my bodyguards clad in armor, their cold glances sharp enough to hurt the eyes. I pretended to call for help, and Su Wanyun couldn't help but take a few steps back, her face pale as she said weakly, "My father and brothers died for the country. How dare you?" I looked at her for a long time, suddenly feeling bored. If you're so scared, why did you resort to such lowly tactics? Your father and brothers were loyal and brave men, yet you've disgraced the Su family. Unsure which of my words had struck her, Su Wanyun's face darkened, revealing a hint of mockery. Isn't this your fault? You shouldn't compete with me for heir Lang. You and Xie Jinyu are in love. You can make a betrothal. So what have I done to deserve your repeated schemes against me, almost costing me my life? In love, Su Wanyun murmured the words a few times, her gaze dropping to the portraits, her lips twisting into a mock smile. Your Highness has heard of my father and brother's reputation, right? They held military power and guarded the borders, ensuring that for decades, the Great Way was unthreatened by barbarians. My father and brothers are irreplaceable. Speaking of the past, Su Wanyun's eyes sparkled. She claimed to have once been the most renowned lady in the capital, courted by many. But when her father and brother died on the battlefield, the Su family was left with only the elderly matriarch and 7-year-old Su Wanyun. At this point, her expression grew cold, yet tears streamed down her cheeks, flowing endlessly. Grandmother went to a Buddhist temple for prayer, and the Su manor was deserted overnight. She even wanted to betroth me to a minor official. Your Highness, if I had wanted to be the crown princess back then, it would have been possible. Now, I can only marry a lowly official. How can I accept that? I pressed my lips together, unable to hold back. Brother wouldn't marry you. Su Wanyun laughed coldly. Who would truly look at him? The crown prince is emotionally detached and isn't a good match. What I desire is Xie Jinyu. We grew up together. He treats me like a sister, caring for me deeply. After my brother's deaths, those noble ladies in the capital continued to visit me, for Xie Jinyu's sake. If I marry a low-ranking official, how many would secretly mock me? If you didn't appear, Xie Jinyu would surely marry me. He once said that if he didn't meet a woman he liked in this life, he would marry me. In the future, I would be Lady Xie, and who would dare to laugh at me? But he brought you back. Su Wanyun's eyes were filled with hatred. Do you know what he said to me when he returned? He said you like him, but that you're too young for him to promise anything too early. I've known him for over a decade. No one understands Xie Jinyu's pride better than I do. I merely had a familiar lady mention your coarseness and lack of manners in front of him, and he couldn't help but distance himself from you. He believed my nonsense and tried to turn you into a proper noblewoman. Su Wanyun walked up to me, leaning down to stare into my eyes. You see, he's such a person. How much love does he have for you? It doesn't compare to his pride and reputation. Your Highness, don't hold on to him. What good is such a man besides his power and status? You're a princess of the royal family, and your brother is the crown prince. You have no shortage of power and status. Please let him go for me. I just want him. This isn't a reason for you to harm me. She said so much, yet lacked the crucial words. I raised my eyes to look at her and declared loudly, though I have been entangled with Xie Jinyu, I have never blocked your path. Yet you have tried to take my life multiple times. He promised to marry me. If you die, he will marry me. I want you dead because you deserve it. Outrageous. My cane struck the ground heavily, and the curtains were lifted, revealing an elderly woman inside with a disappointed expression. Xiao Tao rolled up the curtains and stood beside me. Seeing the old woman, Su Wanyun's eyes flickered with a hint of panic, but she quickly feigned calmness. Just as she was about to call for help, two matrons pushed her to her knees. Outrageous. Who allowed you to speak to the princess like that? 24. Grandmother, what are you doing here? Su Wanyun knelt on the ground, her face pale. Su old lady glanced at her, sighed deeply, and said, Your Highness wants to hear about the Su family matters. Please allow me to return to the capital. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known my granddaughter has become so bold, attacking the princess several times. Recalling what she had just said, Su Wanyun panicked, pleading for mercy, but was silenced by a matron covering her mouth. Su old lady shook her head in disappointment, trembling as she prepared to kneel and apologize. I looked at Xiao Tao, who hurriedly stepped forward to support her. It's my fault. For years, I sought only my own peace, neglecting my granddaughter. That's why she has gone astray, committing so many offenses and disgracing the Su family. Whatever punishment your Highness wishes to impose on her, I will bear no complaints. Su old lady bowed her head and knelt down, disregarding the crowd's objections. Her once shiny hair was now dull and gray. She pleaded, But please show mercy, Your Highness, and spare my foolish granddaughter's life, allowing the Su family to retain a bit of bloodline. I silently watched the chaos in the room and looked up to see the man in the portrait, his expression steadfast and loyal. Su Wanyun was right. The Su family had a renowned reputation known to all. Even when I was a beggar, I once longed for a general who would protect the Great Way, and I had seen the Su brothers riding on horseback, clad in light armor, at the borders. The heroes wrapped in horse hides, even in death, were still fragrant as bamboo. The Su family is loyal and brave. My father has always treated them well, and I admire them greatly, I said calmly. I've heard that the Su family's old home is in Huayan, where the scenery is beautiful and ideal for a peaceful retirement. Su old lady glanced at the portrait, tears glimmering in her eyes, and nodded lightly. Indeed. I've spent most of my life away from home, unable to suppress my longing. I will choose a day to take my granddaughter back to our hometown.
25.
Between the streets, colorful lanterns hung high, their brilliance shining through the night, accompanied by the melodious sounds of silk and bamboo instruments. Amidst the bustling crowd, the crown prince pushed me along, struggling to navigate the throngs of people. I sat leisurely in my wheelchair, occasionally ordering him to buy sweet dumplings or flower lanterns. The prince's hairpin had tilted askew from being jostled by the crowd. When he turned to see me smiling so wide, his gaze flickered for a moment before he bent down to adjust his hairpin. As he approached, I took hold of his hand and sincerely said, Brother, I've never been this happy in my life. The prince quickly stepped behind me, softly stating, Brother will take you to release the lanterns. I nodded vigorously. The night was as dark as ink, and the moonlight flowed like water. As the crowd gradually dispersed, the lake was filled with floating lanterns, twinkling like stars, resembling a galaxy spilled across the surface. Every year, the prince would personally make a lantern and place it in my palace. After years of practice, his skills had become quite refined. I looked at the lake and then at the lantern in my arms, unable to suppress my silence. The prince pressed his lips together. I made the lantern a bit too large. A bit too large? It looked more than twice the size. But there were advantages to having a big lantern. I could easily lift it by the top and gently lower it into the water without needing anyone's help. I closed my eyes and whispered my wish. I hope year after year, brother can always be safe and healthy. The prince also released his lantern. I hope year after year, Mei Mei can always stay by brother's side, being the happiest girl in the world. The two large lanterns bumped against each other, becoming two eye-catching wonders on the water's surface. I watched them for a long time, feeling a slight sting in my eyes. I quickly lifted my sleeve to cover my face and snapped, I don't want to stay in the capital for the rest of my life. I want to travel the world and be a chivalrous heroine from the stories. 26. As winter snow gradually melted, the crown prince suddenly became very busy and hadn't been seen in the Eastern Palace for a long time. My hands became increasingly clumsy, and writing even a single character became a laborious task. Fearing the prince would notice something, I had no choice but to stay in the palace. One day, when Xiaodao called me several times before I finally heard her, I realized I could no longer hide this from everyone. I needed someone to cover for me. So I told Xiaodao, hoping she could act as my eyes and ears, preventing me from making mistakes in front of others. I smiled lightly, calculating my remaining days. Xiaodao froze for a moment, then suddenly broke down in tears. I quickly hugged her to comfort her. This girl had been by my side, crying more often as time passed. I remembered the first time I met Xiaodao. She was about to jump into a well, her eyes filled with a deathly determination, dark as night. I had rescued her, and it took a long time to make her lively and cheerful, but now I had caused her so much sadness. I had already arranged my destination. My life was nearing its end, but I couldn't die in front of my brother. That would be too cruel for him. Before my departure, I went to see the prince. I told him I wanted to travel across the Wei Kingdom and become a female hero. The prince didn't see me. Behind a screen, his silhouette looked thin and sickly. The cold fragrance in the palace grew stronger, as if trying to conceal something. I suddenly felt a pang of anxiety. Brother, why won't you see me? Mei Mei is leaving, and who knows when she can return. Please let me see you one last time. Kan Wu blocked my way, preventing me from getting any closer. I was so anxious that I felt like biting him. The prince finally spoke. Mei Mei, brother is just suffering from a cold, feeling a bit weary. You've reached maturity and should not be so rude. His tone was calm and composed, carrying a reassuring strength. As soon as he spoke, I felt my nerves, which had been frayed, begin to settle. Brother, you must take care of yourself, I urged, softly lecturing him. You're so thin and lack manliness. You need to eat more in the future. The prince fell silent for a moment, then suddenly smiled. Perhaps due to his cold, his voice was hoarse. Brother will listen to you. I looked at the screen reflecting his shadow over and over, feeling as if I couldn't get enough of it. Brother, I'm leaving now. The silhouette inside shifted suddenly, and there was a clattering sound, as if something had been knocked over. The figure paused at the screen, just a step away, but it was still unclear. Mei Mei, please don't be a heroine, okay? The prince's tone carried a hint of pleading. Stay by brother's side. I laughed. Brother is the crown prince, and will one day be the ruler of the world. Every piece of land I walk on will be your territory in the future. I haven't left, brother. Don't be sad. 27. I found a temple in the mountains, filled with crabapple trees. When late spring arrives, the entire mountain will be adorned with blossoms, their fragrance never fading. The journey is long and arduous, so it's nice to see the beauty of the world here. One day, I unexpectedly encountered an old acquaintance. He wore the black robe from years ago, his form unchanged, and his voice rough. He looked at me for a long time without speaking. I had Xiaodao pour him tea. Sir, you came at just the right time. If you had come a few days later, I wouldn't have been able to hear your words. He looked at me with confusion, saying he had come to the capital and heard that the current crown prince favored his sister, whom he had regained. He wondered why I would plant the same life curse on another man. It was an accident, I replied. He raised an eyebrow. That's a pity. Otherwise, this same life curse would have been fulfilled. I shook my head. In life, things can never be completely perfect. However, being able to live until now, seeing brother, and tasting the sesame cakes made by him is already my greatest fulfillment. I must thank you, sir. He chuckled oddly a few times. You're quite open-minded, but some people just can't see clearly. They say the same life curse is rare, yet he doesn't believe it and willingly sacrifices half of his fresh blood, ultimately gaining nothing. He spoke the last part softly, and my hearing was as poor as an elderly woman of 80. I could only catch a few indistinct words. When I asked for clarification, he refused to elaborate further. After quietly finishing a cup of tea, I suddenly recalled previous rumors and asked, I heard someone attempted to assassinate Xie Erlang in the street. Was that you, sir? He replied with an expression of naturalness. This same life curse took countless treasures for me to cultivate. Even if the mother curse dies, it's still invaluable. Naturally, I had to get it back. After speaking, he left without a word. I sat there drinking tea, suddenly feeling a lump in my throat, unable even to open my mouth. Xiao Tao quietly helped me gather the grass weaving nearby. Those oddly shaped items were what I made for my future nieces and nephews. They needed to be soaked in medicine to preserve them, or else they would rot later. I asked Xiao Tao what kind of person the crown prince was. Xiao Tao said, "The crown prince is exceptionally wise, dignified, and will become a virtuous ruler in the future." The tea in the cup quietly swayed, and the air still held the subtle, elegant fragrance of the Eastern Palace. It had been a long time since I had smelled such a fragrance, but the familiar scent was all over the sleeves of the man before me. I smiled bitterly and said, "Yes, brother is indeed very wise."
28.
In the end, I was unable to see the sea of blooming crabapple flowers. The day I realized I had lost my sight, I felt calm, for I had known this day would come. Yet, Xiao Dao cried uncontrollably for a long time. At that time, I could no longer hear her sobs, so I just held her close. She trembled uncontrollably in my arms, tears streaming down my neck, soaking my collar. How could a person have so many tears to cry? I worried that this little girl might cry herself into a faint. Fortunately, she didn't pass out. She even found the time to go down the mountain and hire another servant. She traced her fingers in my palm, saying that since I could no longer see, she was worried about not being able to take care of me by herself, so she had brought someone to help. The new servant was a man, diligent and attentive. He stayed close by my side, never leaving me. His sleeves didn't carry the familiar fragrance I knew so well. But how could I not recognize him? Sometimes I felt guilty. I didn't want to make the other person sad, yet I still had that selfish desire to stay close to him, hiding in this little temple on the outskirts of the capital. Even now, I felt a flicker of joy. After losing my sight, I couldn't tell the passage of time. One day, I sensed something and called out to Xiao Dao, asking what month it was. In the eerie silence, my trembling hands were grasped by a pair of icy cold hands, fingers gliding gently over my palm. "It's May," he said. There was still time. I let out a sigh of relief. My brother's birthday was in June. I asked him to take out the box I had hidden beneath my cosmetics. Inside was the coronation gift I had prepared for the crown prince. My heart was slowing down. I was nearing the end of my life. I stretched out my hand and called to him. "Brother, take me home." I returned to the warm embrace, icy water droplets falling on my face. I blinked, desperately trying to outline his figure in the darkness. "Brother, don't cry." 29. When the mountains were filled with blooming crabapple flowers, the crown prince was carrying someone down the mountain. Halfway down, he saw Xie Jinyu being stopped by Kangwu. Xie Jinyu had been stabbed in the chest and, upon waking, wanted to question the East Palace about the attack. But after hearing the absurd truth, he exclaimed in disbelief, yet couldn't help but believe it deep down. He always thought Ming Jia wouldn't die, turning a blind eye to her suffering. Wasn't that because of the soul-binding curse?
How could someone not die?
Why did Ming Jia hold onto that small wooden box and say it was her second life? The soul-binding curse was evidently real. But how could the mother curse inside him die? How could Ming Jia not have long to live? Xie Jinyu searched for Ming Jia for a long time and finally found this mountain. However, the entire area was surrounded by the crown prince's guards. He couldn't get in and could only wait here. Now he finally saw her. There was still time, everything was still in time. Xie Jinyu looked at the person on the crown prince's back, his eyes brightening. "Ming Jia, I didn't mean to. I know I was wrong." He eagerly tried to express his sincerity, but the person resting on the crown prince's shoulder remained motionless. The crown prince didn't say anything, walking forward step by step with the person on his back. Kangwu drew out his knife. Xie Jinyu didn't even look back, continuing forward. His arm was cut, yet he still followed behind the crown prince. Mingjia, I was wrong. I shouldn't have been so harsh on you or spoiled Wanyun. I will treat you well from now on and won't let you get hurt again. As he spoke, he forced a smile, but his complexion gradually turned pale. Will I marry you, okay? The crown prince stopped walking, coldly staring at him, tears still trailing down his face like a shattered jade figure. I was supposed to be the one to fetch Mingjia back then, he said. Xie Jinyu was stunned. The crown prince continued speaking to himself. If that had been the case, the soul-binding curse would have been on me. I love her more than my own life. I thought of finding her a husband, someone who would love and respect her, treat her as well as I would. Your meeting was a mistake. Do not entangle yourselves further. Xie Jinyu looked at the person carefully nestled on the crown prince's back. She had her head tilted, eyes closed, her lips curved in a smile, looking sweet and beautiful as if she were peacefully asleep. She had always been so wonderful. He was the one who was wrong. 30. Xie Jinyu remembered many years ago. That year, when Xie Jinyu was 8, he traveled alone to the frontier. Halfway there, he was knocked out by a kidnapper. When he woke up, he found himself in an unknown place. Around him were a group of half-grown children, mostly beggars. The kidnappers were all burly men, with thick flesh and fierce faces. A child must have gone missing from somewhere, and the officials were searching everywhere. Outside, chaos reigned. The kidnappers had been hiding for days, and their anger grew. They often picked one child to beat in frustration. The most frequent targets of their violence were the disabled or those who were ugly, as these children had poor prospects and couldn't fetch a good price. Thanks to his good looks, Xie Jinyu had only faced hunger and no beatings. His family often taught him that enduring small grievances would help achieve greater goals. In the midst of turmoil, he believed they were searching for him. He just needed to endure, even if he witnessed those children being beaten to the brink of death. All he could do was close his eyes and silently weep. Aside from enduring, Xie Jinyu could do nothing else. Then a small beggar rushed out and protected a child in front of her. She was as thin as a blade of grass, and the kidnappers would not choose a child that looked like she might die with a single hit. Her face was dirty, reeking of filth, making it impossible to see her features. The only remarkable thing was her pair of eyes, dark, bright, warm, yet sharp, unusually beautiful. That was the first time Xie Jinyu saw her. It was also the first time he realized a person could bleed so much. The kidnappers cursed in frustration and decided not to bind her, intending to wait until she passed out to toss her away. She lay on the ground for 2 days, miraculously surviving. Instead of running away, she began to clean the room. She became the kidnapper's obedient punching bag, enduring beatings without dying, exhibiting a shocking vitality. The kidnappers soon began sending her to buy liquor. At first, they were cautious, but after a few times, they trusted her more and more. Then one day, Xie Jinyu saw her from the window, folding grass and squeezing its juice into the wine. With a calm expression, she poured the wine for the kidnappers and watched as they stiffened and collapsed. Before leaving, she dug up a box under a tree and carefully tucked it into her bosom. The other children followed her, asking what it was. She told them it was her second life. Before escaping, Xie Jinyu was extremely hungry and took a sesame cake from the table. Unfortunately, before he could take a bite, she snatched it away. Her eating was quite unrefined, devouring it greedily, her eyes like a small beast, glaring at him warily as if guarding her prize. The next time he saw Mingjia, she was 13, with a beautiful face resembling that of the late empress. At first, Xie Jinyu didn't recognize her. Until the rocks rolled down, she carried him step by step to safety. Those beautiful eyes, seemingly eternal. When Xie Jinyu woke up, he saw her sitting before him, hands tucked into her sleeves, her disheveled appearance reminiscent of years ago. He hesitantly asked if he had anyone he liked. He said no, and she sighed with relief. After that, she followed him around like a small tail. Later, Mingjia said he hated her because she had taken that piece of cake. He awkwardly avoided her gaze. Did he hate Mingjia? He couldn't quite say. He always thought he loved her, but he felt ashamed, embarrassed that his beloved wife was not as noble or proper as other gentlewomen. At banquets, other gentlewomen would eat 3 bites of a dessert while she would devour it whole, always leaving the plates clean and asking for takeout if she couldn't finish. She was so unrestrained and passionate, unlike anyone else in the capital. She wasn't like him. Xie Jinyu thought that perhaps he did hate her a bit. Seeing her so radiant and bright reminded him of his cowardly, silent, despicable self. He just wanted to change her into someone like him, so he could accept her without any reservations, love her without worry, and no longer hate her. He indulged Su Wanyun simply because Mingjia had once suffered such heavy wounds yet remained unscathed, because Mingjia had a second life. It seemed like no matter how much he harmed her, it didn't matter. Xie Jinyu covered his chest, where he had once been stabbed. The wound had healed long ago, yet it felt empty, as if a piece were missing. The crown prince had been gone for a long time when he suddenly heard a shrill laugh from the forest, startling a flock of birds. His expression remained unchanged as he carefully adjusted the cloak around the person he was carrying. Mimi, brother is taking you home. 31. This day was quite ordinary. After breakfast, the emperor began reviewing memorials. The governor of Huayan still presented a memorial for greetings, and the emperor still commented in red ink, "I am at peace." Just then, a eunuch entered, bowing as he reported, "Your Majesty, Princess Mingjia has passed away." For a long time, the emperor merely responded with a sound. It was like a small stone thrown into a lake. After a brief ripple, the lake returned to calm. The emperor handled memorials as usual, summoned court officials, and dealt with state affairs in an orderly manner. Until the afternoon, when he suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. The eunuch was shocked, but the emperor waved his hand, remained silent for a long time, then rose to enter the secret chamber. In the secret chamber hung a small portrait of the late empress. The woman in the painting had her hair styled like a young girl, bright and beautiful, with delicate and serene brows and eyes. The emperor stood still for a long time before lowering his eyes and speaking. "Xihua, the crown prince is stubborn. He doesn't resemble you much in appearance, but he has your character. He looks cold, but his heart is hot and passionate. I have always known that the crown prince hates me. He hates that I brought back the concubine and Minghui, which made you angry. He hates that I did not stop you from returning to Jiangnan. He hates that I did not protect you well enough, allowing you to encounter danger and die, leaving Mingjia missing. When Mingjia returned that day, the crown prince was overjoyed and prepared to personally bring her back, but I did not agree. He is the crown prince, the foundation of the nation, and will inherit my position in the future. Over the years, Mingjia has become a thorn in his heart. When he meets her, he loses his composure. This should not be the case." The emperor gently stroked the portrait, his gaze tinged with nostalgia. "As for Mingjia, she resembles you very much. When I look at her, I often think of the you from the past. That is why I did not dare to see her too much during these 2 years she has returned." The emperor smiled, a hint of unspeakable sorrow in his laughter. "Mingjia's character is like mine, stubborn and ruthless. She is harsh to others and to herself. Over the years, her personality has become increasingly unruly, making her unsuitable for marriage into a prestigious family. Highborn families have too many rules that Mingjia would not be able to adapt to. I chose a husband for her, a top scholar from this year's examinations. He is handsome and gentle, and although he does not come from a noble family, he is from a respectable household. Mingjia can act freely after marrying him, both the crown prince and I will protect her." At this point, the emperor suddenly fell silent, and for some reason his lips moved, yet he couldn't say anything. He quietly gazed at the portrait until dusk. The emperor's normally straight back suddenly bent, and he choked out, "Xihua, I have let her suffer so much over the years. But I am too late to make amends." 32. Everyone in the capital said Xie Erlang had gone mad. Princess Mingjia was dead, yet he knelt before the palace asking to marry the princess. Xie Ho also did not understand what his son was doing. If he liked her so much, why did he get involved with a girl from the Su family in the first place? But recently, he had been preoccupied with the many mistakes revealed by the Crown Prince's people, busy to the point of exhaustion, and didn't have the energy to deal with his son. Let him kneel. If this unlucky son died from kneeling, that would be good. Even if he didn't die, the Crown Prince would ruthlessly hold him accountable. The 100-year foundation of their marquis family was about to be destroyed by this son. Before Xie left, he didn't forget to kick his son. The common people were very much concerned about it. Xie Jinyu knelt until nightfall, and gradually, the palace gates began to open. His heart raced, but he had just taken a step forward when a voice called him back. A familiar voice. "Erlang, you can't go in." Xie Jinyu turned, only to find the Crown Prince standing not far behind him. He hurriedly knelt again. "Crown Prince, Get up." Xie Jinyu was stunned, but he still dared not get up. "Why are you kneeling?" Princess Mingjia, she is." "I know." The Crown Prince looked at him for a while and sighed. "You can get up. Your father is furious. If he finds out, he will punish you." "No," Xie Jinyu replied. "The princess has died. I want to marry her." Marry?" The Crown Prince looked at him. "Yes." Xie Jinyu's voice trembled slightly. "If I marry her, I can be with her forever." The Crown Prince frowned slightly. Xie Jinyu continued. "The princess has always liked me. I want to marry her. After I marry her, I can give her a life she deserves." "Enough," the Crown Prince said. Xie Jinyu's heart sank, and the Crown Prince continued. "Mingjia has gone. You can't keep her by marrying her." "I can," Xie Jinyu insisted. He gritted his teeth, saying, "As long as I marry her, she will be my wife in the next life. Even if you marry her, she will not come back. Even if you want to be with her forever, that is still impossible," the Crown Prince said. His expression darkened slightly. Xie Jinyu was silent. The Crown Prince turned to leave, and he suddenly asked, "Crown Prince, what do you mean by this?" The Crown Prince stopped and turned back, looking at him calmly. "The world is cruel. You need to know the difference between life and death. As for Mingjia, she is already dead." Xie Jinyu clenched his fists tightly. The Crown Prince continued, "To marry a dead person, it is a folly." His voice softened a bit. "If you truly care for her, remember her as she was in life. She deserves your memories, not your madness." Xie Jinyu looked up, staring blankly at him. "Let's go, Erlang." But Xie Jinyu did not move. The Crown Prince was right. He had not thought this through. In his heart, he had always believed he could save her. Mingjia had suffered so much that he had to save her, but he was still wrong. Xie Jinyu suddenly felt cold all over, as if every cell in his body was paralyzed. "Crown Prince, don't talk." The Crown Prince turned and walked back. Xie Jinyu looked up, feeling disheartened, as the familiar figure grew distant in the moonlight.